We've got a theist, Turner, he, him pronouns in Georgia, has something that they want to talk about today. So, hey, Turner, you are on the Atheist Experience with Secular Rarity and Armin Navabii. How are you?
Yeah, I'm blessed. You said
Cool.
Armin Rivaldi, and Secular. Well, I'm sorry. What was y'all names again?
Armin, and SR works perfect, man. That's us.
All right, Armin and SR. I remember speaking to Armin last time, but you all kind of hang me up. And, I'm the guy who talked about the whole slavery and levels thing. And,
okay.
But I'm going to get to that later.
Yeah, what would you like to talk about today with us, Turner?
I just want to talk about, I just find it funny that atheists will denounce religion, but they will believe in infinity genders. Like, as a Christian, we believe in mainly two genders because of biology. We believe in male.
What's the gender?
Yeah.
What's the gender?
Already.
Hold on. Can I finish my statement?
Well, I answer Armin's question because I think it's relevant, because if you don't have an answer to that, then I'm not sure that the rest of your statement is worthwhile.
Yeah, you're coming here to have a conversation with us. You're going to go on and rant about how ridiculous atheists are. So if you want to tell us, first of all atheists don't have the same views. There are atheists who think there's only two genders. But if you want to say why we are being ridiculous, first we have to understand what you even mean. So we don't know what you mean by gender. What do you mean by gender?
Gender is the traditional exception of the chromosomes XY, which is male.
So you're saying gender didn't exist before we could look at chromosomes? I would argue you don't believe that.
It always existed.
So gender existed before we knew about chromosomes. So chromosomes couldn't be the thing that is definitive about gender, right? Just by your definition and your admission here.
I mean,
you don't think people 1,000 years ago knew about XX and XY chromosomes, much less XXY or just X or XXYY or the handful of other very common chromosomal makeups, right? Like 1,000 years ago, let's do one better. 2,000 years ago, Jesus walked around and he was like, I'm a man. I'm the son of God, not just the child of God. I'm the son of God. And people recognized that, had an understanding of that, worked with that in society. And you're saying that that is because of their understanding and their connection to chromosomes? Just want to make sure.
This is more or less an argument from ignorance. We know that 1,000 years ago, they didn't really have the concept of chromosomes. But
cool. So then the definition you just gave, when Armin asked you about gender and you related it exclusively to chromosomes, maybe there are other factors, but you would now have to take the chromosome factor at least out of it because the concept of gender has existed before we knew about chromosomes, by your admission, correct? That's what you just said.
No, because I'm not living 1,000 years ago. My argument is not being a caveman 1,000 years ago. My argument is that
I don't think you understood what I was saying.
Right.
So let's try again. Go back to Armin's question.
Maybe you just,
what is gender?
Okay. So gender is a traditional exception of the male and female gender.
You can't use the same word to define itself.
Yeah, that's a secular definition.
Yeah, you can't.
That's secular definition. But based on your first definition, let's say what you mentioned, what you described, we call that biological sex. So I think we're talking about different things. Our definitions are different. So we don't. The way you define gender, we call that biological sex. So if you understand that our definition of gender is different from your definition of gender, then you would see that why it makes total sense for us to say that we have more than two genders and people can change genders. Our understanding of gender is an identity, is a personal identity. So given that definition of gender, do you see why we have a point here? If you accept our let's say our definition is wrong, but if you accept our definition and what you're describing is biological sex, and our definition of gender has more to do with personal identity, would you understand why we come up to the conclusions that we do, given our definition?
I mean, okay, could you give me your definition again? Because I feel like we've been talking over each other. But could you give me your... because saying gender is a personal identity is too broad. Like, liking a hobby is a personal identity. That doesn't make it a gender. Your whole definition is too broad. I mean, if you're gonna nitpick that, 1,000 years ago they didn't know what chromosomes is, so people seen a man with a flat chest and a banana in his pants, they didn't know what that was. They were people didn't see, like, I mean, just because 1,000 years ago,
people from thousands of years ago played around with the idea of people switching genders all the time, and people
we've had
having clear genders all the
individuals in Native American communities and other indigenous communities for a very long time. We've had individuals that
switch genders many times. I remember.
Oh my gosh, like we've got lots and lots of stories.
And also
from
Norse mythology, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology. Like, with the idea of switching genders is like ancient, but it's not even relevant to what we're saying. By the way, is Bugs Bunny? What do you think? Bugs Bunny is a boy or a girl? What do you think? Bugs Bunny.
I haven't seen the cartoon where he has a dick, so I don't know.
So wait a second. So it sounds like what you're saying, the only thing that matters about gender is genitals here. Like, is that truly what you believe? I mean, because that's really, really, it's problematic on a lot of levels.
Low-key, yes.
But it's very, very low brow. But yeah, go ahead. Like, what do you think that gender is simply related to genitalia?
I think it's a factor. Like, if you have X,
okay. So if you say it's a factor, then what you're saying is that there are other factors as well that play into it, and then you just have to ask the question of, is there one that is like the thing that moves us from one side to the other? And if not, then it kind of sounds like what you're saying is that there's a handful of different factors that play into the concept of gender. And depending on which of these factors we have boxes checked on. So it kind of sounds like, if that's what you believe, and I'm not sure that it is, but it kind of sounds like that's what you were arguing for. But then that would kind of mean you agree with Armin and I.
Okay, so let me explain something to you without being interrupted, because a lot of times y'all like to interrupt people.
Okay, we'll give you a minute, Turner. Give us just like 5 seconds. We'll get the minute clock on screen. Armin and I won't say a damn thing for a minute, but the moment the minute's up, we'll come back in. Okay, are you ready?
All right.
You got a minute.
I'm ready. Hit it. Okay, so the root definition of gender is XY chromosome for male and XX chromosome for female. Now, the following is some explanation that surrounds the byproducts of the XY chromosome, such as if you're a male, you would have testicles and penis. You would probably have a flat chest. You would probably have growth on your chest. You would probably have thicker bones than the XX, which is called the female. And if you're a female, you would probably have breasts, most likely, if everything goes well. You would have a clitoris. You would have a uterus. You could get pregnant. You could grow hair. You know, you're less likely to grow bald. Now, just because 1,000 years ago they didn't have the concept of chromosomes doesn't mean chromosomes doesn't matter. We don't base stuff off 1,000 years.
So you're at a minute.
So I just checked. I just checked up the definition. That's wrong. No. I just wanted. So you go ahead.
No.
But that's not the definition of gender.
Yeah. I know. I was gonna say, where are you getting that definition from? But just to point out to you, and I think you'll want to go back and watch this, Turner. You didn't actually give a definition. What you did was you ascribed attributes, right? So you didn't say like gender is this, right? What you said is you said gender, and then you just didn't talk about gender at all. You didn't really explain what it is. What is gender as a concept? Like if I say if somebody came up to me and they were like, "Hey, SR, cars." Like, what are cars? And I was like, "Well, you've got wheels and you've got a motor, and some of them have truck beds and some of them have, back seats, and some go vroom vroom and some go beep beep." That really didn't define what a car was, man. So like when you gave all these things, it just didn't really get us to the crux of what we were asking about initially. But also, I want to point out something that you said repeatedly, which again, I'm not sure you actually believe this, because if you do, then you would be agreeing with myself and Armin. Because if you remember, you very clearly said something like, if you're a female, you'll have a clitoris. Sometimes, not all the times, but probably, like in general. And then you said, like, if you're a man, then you'll have testicles. Sometimes, not all the time. Most of the time, maybe, but probably not all the time. Again, if you agree with that, what you're agreeing to, what you're granting, is kind of like what you were granting a minute ago, where you're saying there is a spectrum, there is a confluence of factors, bro. And like, if you agree with that, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the issue is, because I would say that's like kind of where Armin and I come to this discussion. I think that's where the majority of the medical community comes to this discussion. I'm not a doctor. That's why we have Ben on the shows, so that he can come in and actually tell us, what the medical science is. But I feel pretty confident he would be like, yeah, like the general understanding in the medical community has to do with, these handful of different factors. And while you have some things that tend to lean in one direction, saying categorically it's always this way is just flat wrong. So, Armin, did you have anything you wanted to say, or do you want to?
I just want to read it, because we asked for the definition of gender, and
that might be
the wrong answer. So I just want to. It's easy to look. By the way, it took me like 3 seconds to look this up, so you don't have to make stuff up. You could just look at it's. We have this thing called the internet. You could search for definition of words and then use the proper definition. So the definition that I'm saying is gender refers to the social, cultural, and personal attributes, roles, and expectations associated with being male, female, or non-binary. Unlike biological sex, which is centered on physiological characteristics, gender is often considered to be a societal construct.
I feel pretty good about that definition.
Yeah, you like that?
Okay. Yeah, I feel pretty good
because it's the correct one.
Yeah, that might be why. That might be why. But okay, Turner, what are your thoughts on that? We shouted a lot at you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Could I ask you how many biological sex there are, since you believe in infinity genders?
So I can just flat easy tell you this. Yeah, that's a great question. But also, I can just say I don't know. I can just flat be like, I don't know.
What?
And it doesn't matter, because whether or not there's 2, 12, a billion, or 0, the biological sex doesn't have anything to do with gender, which is what we repeatedly tried to say. And again, just like Armin was saying earlier, you don't have to agree with that, but at the very least, can't you see from what we're saying? Like, can't you understand it from that? Like, we do this all the time as atheists, where we allow Christians to come in and say, like, yeah, but hang on a second, if there really is magic in the world, then doesn't this make sense? Like, so again, you asking how many sexes there are just doesn't have anything to do with what we've been trying to talk about.
But let me answer it anyways, because I think secular rarity is so right to not fall for this trap, because I would have taken the bait, because this has not, how many biological sexes, it has nothing to do with, you know, how many genders there are. But if you ask me that, I would just jump right in and answer it. But SR is smarter than me not to take the bait and pointing out how irrelevant this is. But if you the answer is that we have mainly, for humans, we have mainly two biological sexes. We have some rare intersex people as well, but mainly, most often, two biological sexes. That's the answer.
Okay, cool.
Biological sex.
So could I ask you could I ask you something? How come when it comes to biological sex, you would agree to male, female, and birth disorder, but when it comes to gender, it's male, females, emotion, whatever the hell you want it to be?
Yeah. I know that it's really
because they're two different things.
Yeah, I know it's really easy to straw man, and it's really easy not to actually engage the other person when you're very caught up in your emotional feelings. And it sounds like currently that's where you are. You seem like you're really, really ready to just start yelling about stuff, which I'm confused about. And I don't think you've been rude necessarily or anything on this call, Turner. It's just when I hear you respond to things, I hear you respond in a manner that very much gives off the impression that you actually aren't interested in the conversation, right? So like when Armin asked you at the beginning, how do you define gender? And then we've just gone completely off the rails from what your initial talking points were because you couldn't answer that question. Right. And so the reason Armin asked that was not because he's just all excited and just like, oh, man, I can't wait for him to say this, because then I can just go, how many sexes are there? Huh? See, we're actually interested in trying to get to why you believe the thing that you do. But the problem is we haven't even really established what it is you believe, because the first time we tried, you gave us a circular definition. So that didn't explain anything to us. Then when you continued, you gave us a definition that A, was incorrect, but if it was correct, you would be on our side. So we really haven't even made it past the very first, beginning aspects to laying out this conversation. And so I guess I'm just confused. You seem to be interested in this subject. Why don't you just do a little more research and actually arm yourself with some information? I just don't know why you would choose not to do that. But Armin, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, the question is very ridiculous. He's saying, if you could agree that there's mainly two biological sexes, mainly, not always,
right?
Why can't you agree that there's only two genders? Like, the question is so ridiculous. It's kind of like if I was holding two apples and SR was holding 10 oranges, you coming to me and saying, like, if you could agree that Armin is holding two apples, why can't you also agree that SR is holding two oranges?
Yeah.
Well, because he's not.
Totally
because
different.
He's not holding two oranges.
They're totally different. And we have lots of data and evidence to support that. Yeah. Yeah. Again, Turner, I know we've shouted a lot at you, but I think there's a fundamental problem here, and it's that it just appears that you don't seem to have a decent amount of knowledge on this. And I'm not saying that because you disagree with me, right? I'm saying that because, again, every single time we press you just barely, it seems like you kind of fall apart entirely at best, and at worst, you're actually agreeing with us when trying to make your points. So let's see maybe if we can go back to what you were initially talking about. Supposedly what you told the call screener was that you believe it is inconsistent to accept gender identity when it differs from what they were assigned at birth, while also denouncing faith in God. That supposedly was what you were interested in talking about. Do you want to try and make an argument for that, or have we just derailed too much at this point?
Can people actually hear me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I know y'all put me on hold and stuff like that, and I don't know
Well,
when
I did when I said you're on hold, but other than that, I haven't put you on hold at all, man. So
okay, because I heard the ringing and stuff like that, and I was thinking to myself, and I'm sorry if I get loud. I was raised by New Yorkers. I don't know where y'all are from, but I don't know if y'all ever.
Yeah, Armin and I are both very loud individuals. I don't think anybody has criticized your volume. I think we've criticized your focus on emotional conversation as opposed to trying to actually understand in conversation. So, because it just seems like you're really excited to say certain things. But
I mean, I'm excited to get on the show. I've been waiting for an hour, and I know that y'all are pretty popular.
Hey, we'll take that, Armin. That was a nice comment. We're popular. I hope you meant it about us, but the show too, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, hang on, Turner. Let's try and salvage a little bit from this. It is that a good understanding of something you believe. You believe it's inconsistent to accept gender identity when it differs from what they were assigned at birth, while also denouncing faith in God. Is that what you're saying? Is that something you believe?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I don't, just so you know, I'm not saying that people don't have faith in God. I believe people when they tell me I have faith in God. So like that it's not inconsistent. I'm saying the faith in God is a problem, but I'm not saying that they don't have it. So where's the inconsistency?
Okay. But it's when people say that they actually had like experience with God and had.
I believe that they had those experiences. I believe that what they're attributing it to is incorrect. So again, where's the inconsistency?
I mean, there's people who actually said they had like physical experiences with God, and they actually went to heaven, and they actually met angels. And
I accept that they believe those experiences happened. I accept that they had that experience. I just don't.
And we accept the identity that comes with that experience. Like if you say, therefore, I'm a Muslim, I will accept your Muslim identity.
I don't
say,
go,
therefore, I had these experiences.
Yeah, you weren't assigned Muslim at birth. You can't be Muslim. We don't say that. So
no, so if you want to give yourself the identity Muslim, I will accept that. If you want to give yourself the identity Christian, I will call you a Christian. If you want to give yourself the identity Hindu, I will call you a Hindu. If you want to give yourself the identity man, I will call you a man. If you want to give yourself the identity woman, I will call you a woman. So we're completely consistent here.
Would you, caller, offer that offer that same courtesy to individuals who are trans and say, I'm a woman? Would you, just like Armin there said, I think you say you're Christian. Would you offer that same? Is it tit for tat there or not? I just think that would be interesting to know.
I mean, me personally, if somebody want to call themselves a woman or a man, it doesn't affect me, and I'll respect their like pronouns and whatever. Because at the end of the day, because I think it's openly disrespectful to be like, oh man, this assigned at birth male, he thinks he's a woman. Now I can disrespect this person by not calling them by their pronouns. Like that does nothing for the kingdom of Jesus Christ. Like people are just weird when they do that.
I'll definitely say this, man, because I think it's rare. I think it is quite rare that any of these types of calls end in any positive way whatsoever. And I think that is something that we should end this call on, because that is absolutely one of the most fucking important things in this conversation, right? How are we treating people? How are we disrespecting people and harming people? And it sounds like, again, at the very least on that topic, you are shoulder to shoulder standing with myself and Armin in respecting individuals' gender identities. And I wish there were more theists who also held that viewpoint, even if you still hold the viewpoint that you don't think that like trans people really are trans, or you think like gender is inherently tied to chromosomes or genitals. Even if you think that, I am going to take whatever slight victory it is to say that at the very least you have 100% publicly, honestly admitted, hey guys, I'm not going to be a fucking prick to people, and I'm not going to go out and harm people and stuff. And I would assume that would probably extend to not passing laws and so forth and criminalizing people. But I want to let you go, Turner, because again, I think we ended on, you know, at least something positive there. And these calls don't often have that resolution. Please, man, please watch this again. Go back, rewatch it. I know we definitely talked a little bit over each other and stuff, but do that and give us a call again, okay? Call us back, whether it's Armin or myself or whoever's on here. There's a lot of fantastic people that really would love to have this conversation with you. So we are going to let you go, Turner. But like I said, I thought I'm always looking for something positive, especially in a conversation like that, which I think so often just goes completely downhill and off the rails, and it just gets to us, you know, just yelling and shitting on each other. So I wanted to take that little victory. So I hope yeah, I like that. You got any final thoughts on that, Armin, before we grab a couple other calls?
No, I just want to say that you wanted to find a point of agreement there. Can I ruin that a little bit?
No, please ruin it. Please ruin it.
Because he said that doesn't serve the kingdom of Jesus or something like that.
Yeah, I was looking past that. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right though. No, you're right though.
Because we are here trying to figure out what serves, you know, the well-being of the highest number of people as possible.
Yes, like, not the kingdom of Jesus.
If religious people accidentally do something right, but it's for the wrong reasons, and that's not the methodology that we want to support anyways, because because accidentally it sometimes gets something right.
Totally agree.
Because most of the time it doesn't.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. I am glad you said that. That is definitely a good point to make sure is out there for people.